Every summer, billions of fruit pits end up in garbage cans around the world. Peach pits. Cherry pits. Plum pits. Apricot pits. Almond shells. Most people see trash. I see an entire orchard. Because hidden inside every one of those pits is something incredible, a living tree already designed by nature. A tree that could grow taller than your house, produce fruit for decades, and feed your family year after year, completely free. Yet almost nobody grows them. And the few people who try usually fail. Not because they have bad soil. Not because they lack gardening experience. And not because the seeds are dead. They fail because they skip one biological step that every stone fruit seed has been waiting for since the day it formed. Miss this step, and your pit can sit in soil for months and do absolutely nothing. Get it right, and that discarded pit can become the beginning of your own fruit tree. If you love practical gardening tips that save money and turn ordinary things into productive plants, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, I share proven techniques that help gardeners grow more food with less waste. Today, I'm going to show you the exact 3-step method I use to grow peaches, plums, cherries, apricots, and almonds from seed. By the end of this video, you'll know why most pits never sprout, how to wake up the seed inside, and how to give your young tree the best possible start. But first, you need to understand something fascinating. That hard pit in your hand isn't dead. Inside that shell is a tiny sleeping plant called an embryo. It already contains the blueprint for roots, leaves, branches, flowers, and fruit. Everything needed to become a full-sized tree is already there. The reason it doesn't grow immediately is pure survival. Imagine if a peach seed sprouted the moment the fruit dropped in the middle of summer. The tiny seedling would face heat, drought, and eventually winter before it was strong enough to survive. Nature solved this problem long ago. Stone fruit seeds evolved a built-in safety lock. Before they wake up, they demand proof that winter has passed. They need cold. They need moisture. They need time. This process is called stratification, and it is the secret that determines whether your pit becomes a thriving tree, or remains a lifeless seed forever. Once you understand this one principle, you'll never look at a fruit pit the same way again. And here's the part almost nobody knows. That pit isn't sleeping by accident. It's waiting for proof that winter has passed. Inside every peach, plum, cherry, apricot, and almond pit is a biological timer. Until that seed experiences weeks of cold and moisture, it refuses to grow. No cold. No sprout. No tree. This process is called stratification, and it is the #1 reason most people fail when they try growing fruit trees from pits. In nature, the process happens automatically. A fruit falls from the tree, the pit spends the winter buried in cool, damp soil, and when spring arrives, the seed finally wakes up. At home, we simply recreate that winter ourselves. And the results can be amazing. Using this method, I've achieved germination rates that would surprise most gardeners. Pits that would normally sit in a pot for months doing nothing suddenly begin producing roots and shoots. But there's another challenge. That hard shell around the seed. Pick up a peach pit and you'll notice it feels more like a tiny piece of wood than a seed. That's because the outer shell was designed to survive months of rain, freezing temperatures, hungry animals, and constant abuse from nature. It's incredibly tough. And sometimes it's too tough. The seed inside can remain trapped for months, and in poor conditions it may even rot before it ever gets the chance to grow. That's why experienced growers use a few simple tricks to help nature along. Some carefully remove the shell. Others weaken it just enough to let moisture reach the seed faster. Done correctly, these techniques can dramatically improve your success. Done carelessly, you can destroy the seed in seconds. So before you plant anything, let me show you the exact 3-step process I use for peaches, plums, cherries, apricots, and almonds. Because although these fruits belong to the same family, each one has slightly different needs, and those small differences can mean the difference between harvesting your own fruit tree, or ending up with an empty pot and a lot of disappointment. Step 1. Prepare the pit correctly. This is where most people accidentally kill their future tree. They eat the fruit, push the pit into a pot of soil, water it, and wait. Nothing happens. Weeks later, they assume the seed was bad. It wasn't. The preparation was. As soon as you finish eating your peach, plum, cherry, or apricot, bring the pit inside and clean it immediately. Rinse it under running water and scrub away every last bit of fruit. Every bit. Because that sweet fruit left on the shell becomes food for mold and bacteria, and those organisms can destroy the seed long before it ever gets the chance to grow. Once the pit is clean, place it on a paper towel and let it dry indoors for 2 or 3 days. No direct sun. No heater. Just normal room temperature. Now comes the part that surprises most people. For peaches and apricots, you can dramatically speed up germination by carefully opening the hard shell and removing the seed inside. Think of it like opening a walnut. Use nutcrackers or gently tap the pit with a hammer wrapped in cloth. The goal is simple: crack the shell. Do not crush the seed. Inside you'll find a pale, almond-shaped kernel. That's the actual seed you've been trying to grow. For plums and cherries, life is easier. Their shells are thinner, so you can usually leave them intact. Some growers lightly sand one end of the pit to help moisture reach the seed faster. And if you're working with fresh almonds from a tree, crack the shell and remove the kernel just as you would with a peach. Now it's time for the step that changes everything. Step 2, give the seed a winter. This is the difference between a pit that sits in a pot doing nothing and a pit that wakes up and becomes a tree. Take your prepared seeds and place them in a small container or plastic bag filled with a slightly damp medium. I like using a mixture of coarse sand and coconut coir because it holds moisture without becoming soggy. The medium should feel like a wrung-out sponge. Moist. Never dripping. Too much water can rot the seed before it ever begins to grow. Bury the seeds in the mixture, seal the container loosely so a little air can still move, and place it in the refrigerator. Not the freezer. The refrigerator. The ideal temperature is between 1 and 5 degrees Celsius, almost exactly like natural winter soil. And now comes the detail that catches many gardeners by surprise. Not all stone fruits wake up at the same speed. Some are ready in a matter of weeks. Others demand months of patience. Knowing the difference can dramatically increase your success, and that's exactly what we'll cover next. Now comes the part where patience pays off. Different fruit trees wake up on different schedules. Peaches are the slowest. Most peach seeds need between 90 and 120 days of cold before they're ready to grow. That's 3 to 4 months, which is why I usually start peach pits in autumn so they're ready by spring. Plums are faster, needing around 60 to 90 days. Apricots are close to peaches, usually requiring 80 to 100 days. Cherries vary by variety but generally need 60 to 90 days. And almonds are the quickest of all. Many are ready after just 40 to 60 days. Here's a tip that changed my results completely: don't trust the calendar. Trust the seed. Every couple of weeks, open the container and check the moisture. If the medium feels dry, add just enough water to make it slightly damp again. Then look carefully. You're waiting for one tiny sign. A small white root emerging from the seed. The moment you see that little root, the seed is awake. It's ready. Even if the full number of days hasn't passed. That tiny root is nature telling you it's time to plant. Step 3, turn the seed into a tree. This is where your future orchard finally begins. I recommend growing the seedling in a container for its first season, no matter where you live. Choose a pot at least 20 centimeters deep with good drainage holes. Fill it with quality potting mix and add some coarse perlite to improve drainage. Young fruit trees hate sitting in soggy soil. Make a hole about 3 centimeters deep. Place the seed with the root pointing downward and gently cover it. Then water thoroughly until excess water drains from the bottom. Now give it the conditions it wants. Warmth, bright light, protection. At this stage, harsh afternoon sun can stress the seedling, so keep it in bright indirect light or gentle morning sunshine. If the seed was properly stratified, you'll usually see the first shoot appear within 1 to 3 weeks. And honestly, it's one of the most rewarding moments in gardening. A pit that most people would have thrown away suddenly becomes a living tree. If nothing happens after about a month, don't get discouraged. It usually means the seed needed a longer cold period. Make a note of it and adjust next season. Once your seedling develops 4 to 6 true leaves, slowly introduce it to more direct morning sun over the next couple of weeks. At that point, you can begin feeding with a very diluted balanced fertilizer, about half the recommended strength, every 2 weeks. Treat it gently. You're not growing a vegetable. You're raising a tree that could live for decades. By the end of its first growing season, a healthy peach, plum, cherry, apricot, or almond seedling can reach between 60 and 90 centimeters tall and be ready for its permanent home. Think about that for a second. A pit that was headed for the trash can become a fruit tree that feeds people for the next 20, 30, or even 40 years. So now I want to know. Which pit are you going to save first? A peach? A plum? A cherry? An apricot? Or an almond? Tell me in the comments, because I'd love to hear what future trees are about to begin growing in your garden. Before we finish, I want to know something. Which fruit pit are you going to save first? Peach? Plum? Cherry? Apricot? Or almond? Drop just the name in the comments because I read every single one, and I'm curious to see what future orchards are about to begin. Now let me give you one final tip that can dramatically improve your results. Not all pits are equal. If you have several fruits to choose from, don't keep the smallest or damaged ones. Choose pits from the biggest, healthiest, fully ripe fruit you can find. Why? Because the seed inside is carrying the energy that powers the seedling's first days of life. A stronger seed usually produces a stronger start. Whenever possible, save pits from trees that are healthy and productive. Those are the trees that have already proven they can thrive. And never save just one pit. Save 3. Save 5. Even experienced growers lose a few seeds now and then. Having several pits gives you insurance, and if they all germinate, you can keep the strongest and share the extras with friends or family. Before we end, let's quickly avoid the 5 mistakes that ruin most people's results. Mistake number 1, skipping or shortening stratification. A peach pit doesn't care how impatient we are. If it needs months of winter, it needs months of winter. Mistake number 2, keeping the medium too wet. Damp is perfect. Soggy is deadly. If water drips when you squeeze it, it's too wet. Mistake number 3, planting the root upward. The tiny white root always points down. Nature already knows which way to grow. Mistake number 4, overwatering the young seedling. More seedlings die from drowning than from drought. Keep the soil lightly moist, never waterlogged. Mistake number 5, moving the seedling into full sun too quickly. Young trees need time to adapt. A gradual transition prevents shock and helps the roots develop properly. And now, think about this for a moment. The next time you eat a peach or finish a bowl of cherries, you're not holding waste. You're holding possibility. You're holding the beginning of a tree that could produce fruit for decades. A tree that might one day feed your children, your grandchildren, or someone who hasn't even been born yet. And all of it starts with something most people throw away without a second thought. No expensive equipment. No special greenhouse. No nursery required. Just a fruit pit, a little patience, and 3 simple steps. If this video changed the way you'll look at fruit pits from now on, subscribe and join us. Every week I share practical, real-world growing methods that help gardeners and orchard owners get better results. And next week we're taking this one step further. I'll show you how growers dramatically reduce the wait for fruit production, including the same grafting principles used to get young trees producing much sooner. If you're starting trees from seed and want fruit as quickly as possible, you won't want to miss that one. Until then, save those pits. Your future orchard might already be sitting in your fruit bowl,